Good day, people of YouTube. What's going on? The name is AK, owner of eXtremeAzure Productions, and today I'm bringing you yet another XReact video presentation. And today we're going to talk about the situation involving Project Cars 2, and whether or not it's going to be coming to Nintendo Switch. So what is the problem here? Well, if you know anything about the original Project Cars, you would know that it was actually one of the first games to be announced for the Nintendo Wii U all the way back in 2013. Right, it was one of the first games to be announced. Not just one of the first third-party games, just one of the first games in general. And when that was confirmed, it was kind of surprising because most of the time, realistic racing games don't really come to Nintendo platforms. So this was a pretty big deal and was pretty exciting. And a lot of people were really pumped to have the game on Wii U, myself included. And after the announcement, as the months went on and on, the studio, Slightly Mad Studios, their creative director, Mr. Andy Tudor, he appeared in various interviews where he talked about Project Cars on Wii U. He was saying things like how the system was powerful and how Project Cars would be the game to really show what the Wii U could do. He lavished the Wii U hardware, and on many different occasions, he was saying how much progress the team was making and how they were very happy with the way things were turning out. It was really looking to be a very decent game on the system. But ironically, with all that talk, there was never any solid evidence of that. Slightly Mad Studios never released any screenshots, no gameplay clips, nothing like that. No promotional material. Next thing we know, the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the game are announced, and they canceled out the PS3 and 360 versions, but the Wii U is still kept on board. After that announcement, shortly after, images started coming out of the game running on those systems. And everyone was like, okay, that's cool, but what happened to the Wii U version? Slightly Mad was saying, don't worry, we're still working on it, it's still coming. And then eventually the game is released, and the Wii U version is canceled. So what happened there? Slightly Mad took the money from a crowdfunded game. That was a crowdfunded game. They took that money, initially announcing that it's coming to Wii U and PS3 and 360 and PC. And they knew a lot of people were interested in the Wii U. They even had a poll on their website asking people which version of the game they were most excited for, and the Wii U version was at the #1 position for quite a while. So they took those people's money, they used it to fund the game, and they just kept dragging it on and on and on and on until they released the game and they canceled the Wii U version. That rubbed so many people the wrong way, and it makes sense because it's like you were saying one thing and then doing another, and that's not good. If that was not the case, if they were having trouble, because when they canceled the Wii U version, their reason that they gave was, well, we eventually ran into problems with it. The game just wasn't running well on the system. Okay, then, so why did you spend months saying that, yes, the game does run well on the system? What is the... Where is the logic in that? And that is what so many people, myself included, were angry about, because Slightly Mad, for years, they were saying, yes, the game is running well on Wii U, it's going really good, and then things started getting suspicious when they wouldn't release any images or any gameplay clips. And then when it was eventually canceled, a lot of people were like, well, kind of expected this because they were being shady for quite some time now. So with this situation having been said, that makes this current dilemma with Project Cars 2 on whether or not it will come to Switch very interesting. A month before the Switch was released, Andy Tudor, same guy, he had an interview with Red Bull, and they asked him if the game would be coming to Nintendo Switch, and he said he likes the system, but no, he just does not see the game running on the system. He never said if Slightly Mad, actually did any tests, if they have any Switch development kits. He just said no, I really don't see that as happening. I just don't think it can happen. That's what he said. So what's going on with this current situation? Well, keeping Mr. Tudor's comments in mind about how he said that he just doesn't see that happening, a recent interview was conducted with Mr. Cyrus Wesson of Bandai Namco, the publisher of Project Cars 2. Mr. Wesson is the community manager, and he was recently interviewed by Fragments of Silicon, and the topic of bringing Project Cars 2 over to Switch was brought up yet again. So once again, Mr. Tudor, a few months ago, said, well, I just don't see that happening. What does Mr. Wesson say? Well, I'm going to read a quote. I can't speak to a potential Switch version just because I don't have that information. What I can say is that if people really do want a Switch version, I know the Switch is extremely popular right now, let us know on our social media channels on Bandai Namco Entertainment Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Let us know everywhere, and we will definitely let the devs know that's an ask. And the devs are extremely receptive to everything that's going on social media and everything their fans say. So you can also just let them know on the Project Cars website, and they will definitely receive that information. Basically what Mr. Weston said with that quote is that if you want this game on Switch, you know, ask us on our Bandai Namco social media channels. You know, go to the developers as well, you know, let them know. We're going to let them know, but we want you to go to the developers as well. And like, you know, double down, you know, ask us, the publishers, and ask the developers, like, you know, let them know, you know, scream into the high heavens that we want Project Cars 2 on Nintendo Switch. We'll all definitely get that information. He never said that, that doing this would result in the game coming to the system. He just said, well, if you let us know, we'll at least, you know, realize that, yeah, there's a desire to have the game come to the system. So he's asking Switch users to port beg without guaranteeing that a port would actually be made. This is absurd. Considering the past situation with Project Cars on Wii U, the Nintendo community is not exactly best friends with Slightly Mad Studios right now. They're not on good terms. Not on good terms at all, because that was a very shady and underhanded thing that Slightly Mad Studios did with the original Project Cars on Wii U. So, the fact that the Switch version was already written off by the same guy who spent all those years saying how Project Cars on Wii U was amazing, after he spent all that time saying that, when asked about the Switch version, a possible Switch version of Project Cars 2, he immediately read it off. So, he didn't play that same game of stringing people along. He just said point blank, no, it's not happening. And now the community manager from Bandai Namco wants people to ask anyway. After all this, he wants Switch users to ask anyway. No, that's not how this thing works, guys. That's not how this thing works. And this isn't the first time we've seen Switch users being petitioned to beg for a port of a game. This isn't the first time. But it certainly does need to be the last time. And the reason why I said it is because this does not work. Okay? This does not work. Like, even if you have, let's say, 200,000 people decide to go out on these social media platforms and say, yes, we want this game on Switch. Okay, that's still only 200,000 people. If 1 million people were to say, yes, we want this game on Switch, yes, okay, that's a much better turnout, but it's still 1 million people. It doesn't speak for the whole Switch user base, and at the same time, it doesn't necessarily correlate to the amount of sales that that game would be making if it were to come to Nintendo Switch. This is not the right way to go about doing things. The right way to go about doing things is to just do it, okay? We didn't have to ask for Rocket League to come to Nintendo Switch. Psyonix and Nintendo just said, yeah, let's just go ahead and do this thing. You know, there was no port begging for that. And Rocket League is one of the most popular games on the market right now. So if Rocket League, again, one of the most popular games on the market right now, there was no need to ask for a port. Why does Project Cars 2, which is still a fairly new IP, and one that isn't exactly of the exact same high caliber as something like Forza or Gran Turismo, why should people have to port beg to get this version of the game? Why? On Switch. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. If developers really want to gauge the interest of the Switch user base, they need to just release their game. If they just go ahead and release their games on the platform, you know, just do it. Do a good job at it. And if it doesn't sell well, that is when you can say, oh, well, you know what? We're not going to do this anymore. But don't put people in the situation where you're making them beg and still not guaranteeing that the game would come. You're saying, okay, if you let us know, well, we'll consider it. You know, we will know that you want it, and we'll take it under consideration. But that's not a guarantee that we'll actually make it. We'll just be aware that you actually want this game on Switch. Yeah, see, that's not going to work. You know, when people's money are involved, they will just take their money wherever they please. And if you're going to play games with them, they're not going to be interested. And that is exactly what's happening here with Project Cars 2 on whether or not it will come to Nintendo Switch. This is not the way to go about doing things at all. If developers are skeptical about the performance of their games, the sales performance of their games would be on Switch, the best thing to do is to follow in the footsteps of other developers like what EA is doing with FIFA 18. They are releasing a game. They're going to see how it sells. Whether it sells well enough or whether it doesn't sell well enough is going to determine what their future support for the system is going to be. And I think that's a good strategy. I don't really agree with EA only bringing one game for now, but it's still effort, you know, it's actual effort. And I hope that the game does sell well enough so that it actually does encourage EA to bring more games to the platform. And that goes for every other developer who's releasing a game on the platform, seeing how they're going to do, and then that will determine on whether or not they're going to support the Switch down the line. I understand that Nintendo's systems have not been the best place for third-party games within the last few years. But if the sales of indies are anything to go by, it shows that Nintendo gamers are very much willing to buy games that aren't made by Nintendo. They will purchase games that aren't first-party. Those games just have to be of a good enough quality. That's all that Nintendo customers are looking for. They want good quality games that are fun. And if the game is good, they will buy it. Alright? So third parties need to stop tiptoeing around the situation and just do what they're supposed to do and develop games for the system. Just do your job, okay? Your job isn't to try and gauge whether or not people want a game on the system. Your job is to develop the game. So just develop it, release it. If it doesn't do well, then yes, you have a valid excuse not to support the platform further. But that's only if you actually put effort into your work in the first place. Anyway, that's all I have to say on this topic. I really hope that Slightly Mad, I know this wasn't directly related to Slightly Mad because again, this was a community manager from Bandai Namco, but still, I just can't believe that he even managed to say this. He must be oblivious to that whole fiasco that happened with the original Project Cars on Wii U, but this was not the right thing to say considering the circumstances that are involved in this situation. This was not the right thing to say at all. And to all the other developers who are having this attitude where they think that Switch users should beg them to bring the games over to the platform, no, that's not how this works. Release a game, release a good version of a game on the Switch. If it doesn't do well, then okay, pull away. But that is how you should go about dissecting whether or not you can do business with this platform. That is the only way you should do it. You are game developers. Do your job. That's it for this video. Hope you liked it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.